I sat down and put some work into Metaphor Refantasio.
Metaphor Refantasio out now on the Xbox. I don't know if it's out on anything
I
else.
can't say for sure
I
whether it's out on anything else.
You can't say for sure.
It may or may not be, but it's
I don't even
definitely
know what not a Xbox
it's
is.
definitely out on Microsoft PC and Xbox.
Man, that is like the funniest thing over and over. All right, hey,
I don't know what kind of backroom deals have to be made.
I know exactly what backroom deal is. Microsoft agreed to handle their advertising.
Let me rephrase. I don't know why these kind of backroom deals, but
It seems like a stupid deal.
but hey, none of that matters because the game is very fun and it's very good, and I have enjoyed it.
Where you at?
So progress-wise, I have just completed the Necromancer dungeon.
That's a good dungeon.
And the first thing that I want to bring to attention, call attention to, is I know that this is a much more recognizable kind of fantasy setting, and we also know that the Persona and SMT games are known for their music, and you've talked about how fucking solid it is. I am like jaw of fucking gape at how awesome the music is in a lot of these
it's
instances.
amazing.
So in particular, right, you have to go, well, all right, the Velvet Room theme. This has been so good that it's become a staple of the entire franchise that you've stuck to. How the fuck are you going to compete with that? How dare you even think about competing with that by bringing some new shit into the equation? That's nuts. That's insane. That thing is so good that like it amplifies why 3 is as good as it is. That theme in particular. The fucking academia theme, man. Oh, it's like we like perfect example. When I've been playing it, Punch Mom has heard that music playing in
Right.
throughout the house and whatever in the background, and came up and was just like, "So, are you at like the final boss or something? Like what are you playing here?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the new thing that's P6 but not P6 and stuff." It's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Right."
I'm just chilling with more.
Yeah, and I'm like, so that's not the final boss theme. That's the new Velvet Room theme. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, because you're gonna hear it a lot, so it better be fucking good, you know. The entire concept of we're gonna take something as good as a finale and just drop it immediately in front of you. What a good idea! What a great idea, man! It swells, it builds, and like listening to it on loop, I have no issues whatsoever because of just how fantastical it is.
So there is a specific problem with that piece of music, like explicitly that one piece of music. And that is on like more second upgrade, you can do all your archetype stuff without going to see him.
I was about to bring that up. So I was about to bring that up. And it's to say, because I was like, and I just got the thing that says you don't have to go visit him as much as you used to. And it's like,
and you're like, I wonder how often I'm going to go see more. Once I got that upgrade, I think I saw more like 10
oh
times.
man, okay.
Like
I was worried about that.
Dude, you never go back.
Because sometimes you'd at night, like I'm thinking of an average P game, and like you'd go to sleep and just get pulled into the Velvet Room for random reasons,
Yeah, all the time.
There's scenes happening, Igor's got shit going on, or the twins, or the attendant, whatever. But yeah, here I guess you'd go back to either read entries on the new archetypes you get, and to finish his quests and pet the cat, right? That's it.
Pretty much.
Well,
there's a couple like minor features that unlock about halfway through the game in there, but like you go in, do them, and leave, and then they're done for hours.
Well, I'm not going to say I don't want quality of life because, yeah, walking around and changing. First of all, I do have to say changing archetypes. Why is that buried in the equipment menu? That's an odd place.
You can do it through the archetype menu also.
Okay, so early on, when before you have the archetype menu,
Yeah, you have to do it through equipment.
yeah, and I was like kind of going like, why is there not an archetype thing here? And it's not. I guess it's not there yet until you get
Yeah.
the yeah.
Yeah, no, when you get the ability to go to the archetype menu on triangle on the main menu, you just start changing through that.
But it initially it took a second for me because I couldn't find where to change archetypes. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, it's a fucking item.
Yeah, it's listed amongst your equipment. You know,
It's fucking weird.
So I was like, that's baffling. And then also, there's no quick D-pad button to go straight to that screen. You hit left to go to your items, you hit right to go to all the other ones, you know, but you don't go straight there. But anyway, yeah.
So I have a question for you about metaphor.
Okay.
You're at the end of the first big dungeon, like proper timed calendared dungeon.
Proper calendared dungeon.
What is the stat distribution for your main man?
Okay, so when I started, I chose when they asked me what kind of person I was at the recruitment, I said I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah.
So I had a massive luck boost, which not typically what I go with, but fuck it, whatever. Let's see what happens.
There's those little teeth shitheads will tell you how all the stats work throughout the game, and they're all good.
Okay,
they're all good.
Luck is literally a skill. The question here is that it's what it describes the benefits as is item discovery, right?
Yeah, it also affects your critical rate.
Huh.
With physical attacks.
Interesting. Well, I don't do it.
It also affects how fast you recover from statuses, and if you get affected by statuses, and if you affect others with statuses.
Okay. Critting I don't see often because I'm not using regular attack that often. But
oh no, crits can happen on all physical type attacks. So like all the warrior skills can crit.
Okay. But that is to say, like, yeah, I'm mostly doing skills and I'm mostly doing weaknesses, you know. Yeah. So there's not many opportunities for a one more action to occur, you know.
Yeah. So for physical attackers, like strength builds, luck is very very appreciated because every crit is another half turn.
Yeah. So once I got brawler, I saw that kind of come into handy once or twice with the with the fists, and that was pretty sick. Interesting seeing the pace of a dungeon in this game versus, you know, Persona and SMT, because they don't. You talked about this, right? They don't force you to do it all in one day. Nor now, and I know from what you said about the way the calendar works, do you feel the pressure because days are not wasted, right?
Days can't be wasted unless you fucking go way out of your way to do something weird.
But that inner min-maxer wants to not waste calendar days at where they can be spared and wants to have as many extra days to do things as possible. And so you're like, okay, in order to do that, how do you take on these dungeons? P3, 4, or 5, SMT, like all of it, it's always been, well, SMT is different, but in those games, I've one-shot the dungeons pretty much consistently the entire time across all of those games.
Oh yeah.
It's gotten,
I think the one that always gets me is P5's Kamoshida Castle is really long to one-shot at that part of the game.
Yeah. Arc, right? The goal of putting these calendar dates there has always been like, yeah, you have some time to chip away at it, but no one does that, right? Or I don't know if people do, but I know you don't. I know no one I know that plays it does.
I do not.
All of the people, everyone I know that plays these games just goes ham one day, and then you free up 2 weeks to do all your activities because you want to get all your bonuses from those things, right? In this case, they're like, you will go to sleep or you will struggle, you know?
So the only way
mage tech, right,
to one-shot that dungeon is if you formerly beat the optional Guptaros dungeon. because the optional Guptaros dungeon is way harder but shorter than the main story dungeon.
Okay.
And if you do that, then and you go into the Necromancer dungeon, then this is what happened to me. For the first 50-60% of that dungeon, enemies won't be able to hurt you or attack you. You'll just one-shot them instantly. So you don't use any resources.
Spend anything. Yeah, okay.
So when I went in there, I really only had to fight the second half of that dungeon.
Now, the interesting part about what you're saying here is to get to that Guptaros dungeon first, you have to get your wisdom up, which takes a couple days.
Yep.
And then you have to go clear that. So you're spending days on other things anyway, which means you can't go day one straight to that original dungeon and blast through it.
You could probably do it, but it's hard.
So what I think you can do is pick mage and then go to the fountains and just
you sure can
and stand there, right?
You sure can.
But that's not going to refill your team. That's just going to refill you, right?
That's going to refill the team.
Oh, the whole team. Okay, so yeah,
the whole team.
So then that's it. You can do it the slow,
now
prodding way.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking plotting. It only regenerates 1 MP per attack or kill. That would take a while, but it's really, really, really going to take a while once your characters have double, triple the MP. And that's where metaphors like pacing comes in really, really interestingly. Every dungeon has a different core timeline structure. So like the first dungeon, the one that you just did, is a Persona 5 castle. Persona 5, like what are those called? Palace.
Palace, yeah.
Right? Some of them are not like that at all.
Okay.
Like at all.
Okay.
And the game moves like the game flip-flops between you should do everything you possibly can before doing the final dungeon. Before doing the story dungeon, or bang the dungeon out immediately and then have free time. And it flip-flops between the two places.
Now, I ultimately, I know that you're supposed to have freedom with this, so it's all on you, the player, to determine, like, well, what are you okay with? And I was like, I hit a point where I was like, where am I? What floor am I at? Where's this going? And I was like, all right, you know what? I've stretched it far enough. Let me go take a nap, and I'll come back and do it in 2. And I did. Came back on the next day, and switched to a low MP efficiency setup, which I found to be pretty solid by having 2 brawlers and then 1 healer up top. And then the healer just focuses on putting their life back in place as they spend HP to do damage, right? It works as long as the enemies you're fighting are susceptible to those attack types. And I noticed, and that's something as well that's really interesting here, is like the switch ups from area to area are like I had to do full team archetype restructures as you enter like a new floor, where it's like, the thing you were expressly just doing does not work here. Switch it all up again, you know?
Yeah, so the first like half of the game, you're like, oh, this shit doesn't work. Oh, I got nothing going on here. I'm going to switch it up to this. But then as your number of archetypes increases and your like inherent skill goes up, you find yourself being able to create characters that can cover like this entire quadrant of the diagram. And this quadrant of the diagram, and this and this and this.
So that's I'm really hoping that we speed up the inherited skills, because ultimately I want to focus in on a favorite type and like push it. But the feeling I'm getting, like right off the bat here in this early game, is like we do not want you to sit on one. Even in Stoll's case, where I was like, oh well, his default warrior is setup is pretty good, but like it was halfway through the Necromancer dungeon where it was like, and time to switch that out, you know.
So
finger raise.
There is. I've described it before, but now that you're in it, you have like a better like grasp on it, like the feel.
Yes.
I am going to call Metaphor's experience system a democratic experience system. So I have gotten to a point, actually I got to this point like on Dungeon 3, where Stroll was on, I think he was on Warrior, but he might be on his other like major archetype, where I'm like, I'm happy with Stroll. Stroll can just stay like this forever. He is reliable. He is solid. He is good. I am just going to use him to feed the other character's experience.
Okay.
And when I wanted to change Stroll to something different, I had 2 other characters that were now in his place where I'm like, I'm very happy with this class.
Okay.
I'm very happy with this setup. You guys are now going to feed Stroll your extra experience.
Okay.
And so like, yeah, no, if you find something that really, really works and you have the inherited skills that like work out well for you, you can roll that forever and just use that person as an experience battery.
Something else. Something else that's interesting too is like, I remember sometimes going into, you know, again, earlier Persona games with a team that was like, okay, I'll make sure that I have a couple of different demons that have, you know, that can target, a good half of the weaknesses or so.
Yeah, you want the weakness roll chart. You want the whole thing.
And the idea here of being like, okay, well, you can't cover it all, but here's some little things you can do to supplement that. And one of them is like the mage skills, where you get like mage wind or like, you know, mage electricity or mage fire.
Oh, the
accessory that you put on the
Igniters.
character. Exactly, right? And it's like, okay, so that'll supplement and give you a nice thing where I'm like, great, I wanted Hammer on Hulkenberg. Let's
or you want a full party heal on a character when you don't have access to it.
But the trade-off there is you're spending double the MP on those casts.
And you're losing your accessory spot.
Yes, true. So it's like, how badly do you want to round out your ability to take on the weakness chart?
Well, you know what you could do, right? You could just wait until you get to the part of the dungeon where you just auto-kill people and just get a little bit more archetype XP.
I mean, yeah, and I did spend 1 or 2 of the little collectible pocket ones just for like, you know, getting me to the places I wanted to go. But what I eventually hit was, I really wanted to do it in 2, and I was getting to the like final scraps of my MP, pushing up that staircase to the necromancer, and I was like, I think I can do this. I'm using HP brawler spells mostly. It's okay.
That boss is fairly difficult.
But you wander into like one kind of room past this point, and the shit in there is like, not only does what you have not work, but like, you better just quit and reload your save right now, because you're like, the fucking humans in here are gonna just fuck you up. You like you have nothing on their weaknesses, and they have they have everything on you, essentially, you know. So it's like, right. This is the press turn. The press turn feast or famine mean system
is now on famine.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm just gonna like, I literally just reload your save. You know, like, don't even try to play. But it forced me to then go rest a second time, and I was like, motherfucker, 3 days. Oh, and that felt bad. I was like, I hate wait. I'm like, 3 days is too much. You know, but I'm like, I guess that's what this game is doing. It's actually telling you you're going to use the calendar.
I will tell you something. So, particularly since you started with luck, once you get out of that major story dungeon, you're going to really want to do that thing for Brigitte. Because you will unlock the solution to every numerical part of that game.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And that game will change, and your interaction with that game's schedule will change as a result.
Here's something. Here's a heaping amount of praise I want to put on the overworld as well. When you are, running around town in Japan, and you're deciding whether to go play baseball or take a hot dip, or hang out with a whatever a shogi player. These are all activities that you push here and you get your stats from, and you know what? Hey, shogi player's cute, so that's fine. But all right, other activities, whatever. In this game, in this fantasy setting, when you run by a dude who's like, "Hey, do you want to hear about why everyone hates my race and treats me like shit?"
Yeah,
Lore.
you know what? Actually, I would be really interested in hearing.
Yeah,
about that.
and it's like, oh, this will raise your tolerance. Sort of like, yeah, I don't care. I want to know about the lore. And I'm like all the little things going on that are like time spend activities, with the exception perhaps of like people watching. Every other thing going on was something
really good. There's one of the towns where you can go bungee jumping.
Oh wow, okay.
And everybody, but it's not bungee jumping. It's like, hey, you want to look cool and just jump off this cliff with a rope? You'll look fucking cool as shit.
Build up some followers. Yeah, nice. Get increase your fucking follower count. But I found that like all the activity decisions were really good ones, because it wasn't even the reward as much as it was like the thing you got for the activity itself, or whatever it was lore wise was It was interesting to me, and I'm like, damn, I do want to spend my time hearing about the story of old or whatever else is going on in this land. I want to know more. It's a pretty good proposition for your time.
So I have two more pro tips for you that will help you in your brain. Number one is there are some of those stat up events that are time limited or on specific days, so they happen quite often. Starting at the second town, that podium out in front of the cathedral where people are hanging out, where the criers go hang out.
Yeah.
So every town has one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can check that out and another candidate will be on there and you can debate them in front of the crowd.
Oh, sick. Okay. Hell yeah.
And it gives you a huge amount of points, but only if you win.
Okay. Yeah.
And the second thing is I have been informed over and over, you should not worry too much about time.
Okay.
I'm right now on track to be ending the game with something like 15 to 25 extra days.
I saw someone say they beat the game with weeks to spare. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that I now have I'm at the point of the game where I've unlocked every bond.
Okay.
And I have one stat away from being maxed out.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the amount of days on the calendar left, and I'm like, I'm totally gonna be able to do all of it with weeks to fucking spare.
Okay.
Like, no problem.
Something else that was interesting too is like, as I was initially setting up the builds with everybody and doing the transferring of skills and archetypes, I was getting like kind of mag starved, and I was like, shit, okay. And I was like, I guess
that does happen. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like running back, and I'm like, okay, one, is there a fast way to just run back to the statue and collect my daily, mag? And I was like, I guess you got to teleport and surf over to it. But then obviously completing, a dungeon, I was like, oh fuck, overflowing, tons of it. Right. For now. Is there so that's kind of the question. It's like, are you in a perpetual state of like mag overflow, mag starvation? No? Okay, all right.
Not me.
Okay.
Though I may have in RPGs when you finish a dungeon at level 55 and the party member joins you and they're level like 38.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
overdoing it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about mag, I'll be quite honest.
I mean, I'm assuming the fact that there's an exchange rate person to be like, do you want to turn it into cash, is there because people will find themselves with more mag than they know what to do with. So here's
what sucks. That is useless. What you want to be able to do is turn cash
into the other way around, but that would defeat the whole thing. That would
I want it.
Defeat the game. That would literally, that doesn't work.
But I want it though.
unless you plan extensively for it, like Darkest Dungeon, and it's multiple currencies in one, But yeah, okay, that is a situation that you find you don't have, but you also go ham.
So there's an ability that you get to equip that causes a bunch of extra money to drop from enemies when you kill them.
Okay.
And once you find a spot with those flowers that just spawn enemies infinitely, and you're auto killing them with a single strike,
the farm begins.
You could put on a podcast such as the Castle Super Beast podcast, and you can just abuse it as hard as you want.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna take the game at its own pace. I don't know that it's long enough, and I don't know that I'm gonna necessarily feel like stopping to
So
fuck with the flow.
There's a very strange thing that happens when you do that. When you get significantly stronger than the game's base content, you are flying through those micro dungeons in like half an hour because nothing in there actually fights you. And as a result, you essentially stop gaining XP entirely. Because you're not having to stop, you're not having to retread, you're just auto killing everything at like a 50% reduction,
and it's giving you less because of where it is relative. Okay. So then eventually it catches up with you.
Yeah. So the place that I'm at right now, I'm like, I don't have to do nothing until I get to the final dungeon. Like, I'm good to just coast on my current character strength until the final dungeon.
Well, shit. Okay.
Yeah, that game's real good.
It's very good. It's very good.
I would say the most interesting thing about it is that it is consistently exciting in the way that it changes up its own formula.
Okay.
Like every like calendar date has its own like flavor. It's not like, all right, this is the
now
gangster dungeon. This is
the
art dungeon. It's like they're like different things.
Because I mean, like there was always a a particular contrivance that you establish early, whether it's like, oh, we gotta wait for Tartarus, or we gotta have the next victim in the TV, or you know what I mean, whatever it is, or just like, and it would just be like, right, you're pretty much what the next Mega Man Dr. Wily boss is gonna be, and then you're and when it's gonna pop up on the thing. But
yeah, I was very surprised at a couple of the calendar events.
But the one thing I do know will happen is every time something big goes down, whatever it is or whoever is involved with it will always be like, and that's why in 2 weeks' time I'll be making my move. And you're like, well, yeah, the game format requires.
That's not true.
Really? Okay.
That is I'm trying so hard.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, that is not true.
Okay, because it certainly sets up an expectation that, like, it's like, all right, we cleared it. Well, now what's gonna happen next? It's like, oh, big shit's going down in 2 weeks.
I can't actually describe one that like a way that is not the case. The primary deadline, like there's the story and what I'd call the event deadline. That's one thing. But the real deadline is we have to leave this town on this date to make it to the next town in time.
Okay.
Like, and the way it's phrased is like, boys and girls, we gotta leave by the 23rd. So everybody get your shit done by the 23rd because we're out of here.
Right. Okay. Kids, get on the bus. Yeah.
Which makes it really like natural for when you've blown through the story event in a single day and you're like, well, why am I sticking around for 14 more days? It's like, because you don't have to leave because the trip we're only all leaving in a couple weeks.
So I guess then to that, my last question, I wonder, for anybody who waits until the last days to do the task and hits that point of realizing, oh shit, this takes more than I thought it did, they are pretty much forced to do the mage grind strategy or reload an old save. I imagine you can get fucked basically, or will there always be a slow go farm MP from a volcano, and
So each calendar deadline has its own focus. The first one is the one that's the most like Persona 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Like the Necromancer dungeon is like extremely clear. It's get strong enough, do the dungeon, maybe come back, do the dungeon, etc.
Don't assume the next ones are going to be like that. Yeah.
The next one is, it like pushes you to like do this, and then this. And if you the basic logic is like, if you are able to have completed the side content in an area, you are able to beat the story event.
Okay.
Right? Like you like, because sometimes the side content is more difficult than the story content. And some of them are implied to be like, do it right now, and some are like, you should probably just do it on the final day. Like the sense of urgency between them is very different,
and it makes it clear.
Yeah,
but you can fuck yourself over.
You can,
if you have poor planning.
I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Yeah. Okay.
The only one that I would say is that the fourth dungeon, you should walk into that motherfucker day one and just ignore everything else and just go right in there.
Okay. Yeah.
I've also been playing Metaphor. I'm very far into the game.
Sounds like you're approaching point finale.
I'm in the middle of September right now.
Okay.
And I have passed what would I call it? I have passed by the dramatic climax that is Metaphor's culprit pancakes reveals.
Yeah.
Which is like 6 hours of nonstop go. It's very, very intense.
Nice.
There is a 48-hour period in that game that takes like 6 hours. Just nonstop.
Okay.
Just go.
Okay.
And they nailed it on that shit. The payoffs, the setup, the twists, the etc. Like fantastic, amazing, great. And then the game points at a WrestleMania sign and gives you the rest of your calendar. And then you see where they cut out a major dungeon out of the game.
Okay.
You go to a location and you see it and you're like, wow. And then you're like, we're not going inside. And I'm like, really? We're not going to go inside? Huh? And they're like, no, we're not going to go in. It's very obviously got cut before release. And we're like, but it's so elaborate looking from far away. I'm like, no, we're not going to go in. No.
DLC?
It's like at the 60% mark. It'd be really weird to go back there for DLC, but I don't know.
Isn't that what Phantom Liberty is?
Yeah, but Phantom Liberty is like an open world game that you can go anywhere and do anything at any time.
Okay. Well, apparently.
Now, granted, this game does have a post game, so. Yeah, that's a really good game.
Okay.
And I finish every time period going, wow, I made a lot of progress with all of these bonds. Like, wow, I made more progress than I thought I was going to. Wow. I'm looking at it and I think I have like 20 bond levels left across the game, and I definitely have more than 20 days.
Okay. So here's not a super in your wheelhouse question, but I'm just curious what you think. I mean, the first human designs that we see are all really fucking wild and interesting, and then of course you have your reference to Bosch painting, right? Like the
Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah. So does that power level of human design keep up going forward? Are you continuously impressed and or pleased by the designs for humans?
There's some good ass humans in this game.
Okay.
There's some killer humans. I think the wait, did you beat the first dungeon?
Yes, and
you beat it.
Yeah.
Okay, that fucking thing is probably the coolest one I've seen so far. That shit's out of control.
So the raddest part, if anything, is like, well, you're looking at exactly the Bosch painting, right? And I think I told the story about like how, like, as a kid, I remember we had a couple of those art books around the house for some reason. It was in the guest room, and I would stare at them because they were just so fucking, like, I didn't know what I was looking at, and it was just like depictions of hell, you know?
Yeah, seeing them 3D animated with all the fucking people dancing around, it's like...
And I remember my dad, like, came into the room once and was like, you shouldn't stare at that for too long. It's not good.
It's weird.
Right? You know? And I was like...
Weird shit.
Well, yeah. And it was just like, because it's hell. It's bad. You're looking at hell, you know? And it was I don't know, whatever. The spiritual vibes were, you know, oogie boogie, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
But I was just like I was super interested in, because I'm just like, what are these weird forms and all the, you know, and so looking at the actual the one that you end up fighting, there's that bit with the egg part of the design where you're
and
like,
then the frogs are inside the egg.
Where I'm like, if you know the source material, you know what's gonna happen, you know. And then sure enough, yeah, you crack that shit open and then it comes out. I'm like, oh, that's great. Like there's a whole thing to the reference. So that's kind of my thing is like,
that's probably the strongest.
That's the strongest one. Okay.
But I think there's a reason for that. So that one is directly taken from a Hieronymus Bosch painting. Like it's a 1-to-1 recreation with the frogs and the egg and all that shit.
Yeah. And
I mean, people are saying nay, but I mean, I haven't seen all of them. Before, when I was playing through the early part of the game, I noticed a bunch of design elements from the humans that I thought were really interesting. So the game is like overwhelmingly painted like a 2D filter. Like there's a 2D anime filter or pastel filter on everybody.
Absolutely.
Except for humans. Humans are realistically 3D modeled and don't have a 2D filter on them. And also in the anime cutscenes, they're depicted as 3D models instead of 2D animated creatures.
There's a watercolor filter on everything else. You're right. Yeah.
And on top of that, the one we're talking about, I forget its name because they are all homo something.
Yeah.
With the dancing creatures on the leg and the fucking frogs that live inside, it is overwhelmingly obvious once you encounter that these aren't just like creatures or monsters. These are like transcending the internal logic of the setting.
Yeah. No,
like these are patently unreal creatures.
It feels, especially looking, and then like even looking at shit on the title screen as well and things floating around, it does look like this is from another world, from the imagination. Well, I don't know if it's, you know, from more, whatever the case is, it feels like it does not belong in the same setting for sure. That vibe is clear from that.
I don't know if this is an inspiration, and I don't know if this is going anywhere. But one of the things I did during that first metaphor stream is I pulled up a video from Cosmos where Carl Sagan starts to talk about Flatland and the hypercubes.
Okay.
And he basically describes that to a 2D creature in Flatland, a 3-dimensional creature would look nonsensical and contort in and on itself and be able to appear and disappear and do all sorts of zany shit.
Right.
And that's what I feel like you're looking at when you look at humans. Like they defy the logical rules of its own setting.
You're missing information. and what you're seeing is the best you can grasp from your limited plane.
Yeah, and my favorite part of when I was doing all of that like speculation is that I noticed that the archetypes are also actually displayed as 3D in the anime cutscenes and are also realistically 3D modeled.
That's a fucking interesting concept. Yeah, if that's headcanon, that's pretty strong. I mean, we'll see where things go.
It might go somewhere. I don't actually know,
but that's really conceptually interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, no, the humans are great, and there's parts of the story that have more humans and less humans. But they're always kind of around.
Okay. Yeah, the 2D flatland creatures looking at you and seeing a bisection of your insides and going, what is this weird steak thing that is constantly becoming bigger and then constantly getting smaller as you can only see one particular sliver of existence. Fascinating. Okay, that's fun. That's a fun way to do it. Yeah,
that game's real good.
And they even have time to throw in a little fucking anime death game situation with the idea of like the setup essentially with there's rules that must be followed, otherwise the whole thing doesn't work.
That shit is obviously there so that the player doesn't go, why don't we just fucking jump Lewis right now? we like, and so like two things. One, like it's stated outright like you would lose. I mean, you would totally whoop your ass. And two, because you'll just fucking die.
Well, so what you're left with is an overwhelming feeling of like you're just not even remotely allowed to approach. Which, hey, guess what? That's a Griffith vibe. It's like it's bad enough when the fight, if it were fair, would be unfair. But then also, fate has conspired to not even let you approach.
Is so far away.
That's how you properly Griffith. So that vibe was established very, very strongly immediately. Fucking great so far. We'll see how that comes along. And I appreciate too as well that like they're being generous with those archetypes because hey, no personas, right? So you want to be able to feel, you don't want to get too bored with your styles and things, and like right off it's like within one dungeon you have like 6 or so to choose from.
They come fast for a while.
Awesome.
Like they do start to slow down, but as it starts to slow down with the like brand new types, your bonds are getting high that you're getting the tier 2 types of a bunch of them, or the tier 3 types.
It's interesting to balance a game around the idea of like not allowing you to switch mid-battle, where that would be too much.
You can enter into fights and be fucked.
Yeah, because there is that freedom brings it's it's a problem where if you have the ability to like spend a turn doing anything, then there are no real problems, right? If you have a full pocket of personas that have enough diversity amongst their skills, you will never ever need to switch to a different persona,
I think that
except for your own boredom and interest.
I think that they really split the difference really well, because in the modern persona you have 3 characters that can't change shit, and hope you brought in the right guys because they're coming in with what they're coming in on, but then you have an infinite variety of whatever, versus here where it's like everybody has an infinite variety of whatever, as long as you actually set them up to bring that shit in.
It's even interesting how they have your partner start out as AI controlled, just like almost like an older game, just to like show you that feature in a way, and then you unlock the full control. But it's like, and if you want to go back to the AI control with behaviors, you can, so you have your full gamut of 3, 4, and 5 possibilities.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, not at all. It was the worst thing ever back when you couldn't control your partners. But like they put that in for the beginning to be like, if you want to,
and the game does like kind of expect you that if you run into an encounter that you're just completely fucked on, to like back out to your save point and like maybe I can mix and match. So like the dragon in the mines is a good example. It's like, you know what the best way to beat that dragon is? 3 mages. Just ice blast that shithead for fucking 10 turns in a row.
I overthought it because turns out I was super ready for it, just without any switching up or grinding. I just walked into it and I was fine, you know.
Should I always have a mixed party? Nah. Sometimes the best solution is 4 warriors.
Oh yeah. No. Fucking Hulkenberg with the knight dual tech that creates a weakness to Pierce.
Just do it over and over and over and over and
fucking lock 2 of those in and watch things melt. It's so strong. It's like, oh, you have no weaknesses? Cool, let's make one. Yeah.
There's three ways you can basically build your kit. I built my kit very classically, and I'm like, I want to have a magical attacker, a physical attacker, an agility attacker, and the flex spot for whatever, right? But you can just figure, you go talk to the informant, and you can just walk into a place and just build the whole fucking team around what the area you're walking into is weak on.
True.
Even if they're not all very strong, like they all have the right shit.
The informant is a really interesting way to basically be like, hey man, we know you can jump on Google, but why not do it diegetically
here?
You know, why not do it within the world? Spend some cash. We'll tell you what Google will tell you.
There's a really incredible piece of advice that the first informant gives you is like, listen, if a goblin sees a staff, they're going to go fucking crazy and kill you. And so I'm like, how bad could that be? If a goblin sees a staff, every goblin does a multi-hit AoE attack on every turn that will kill you. You're not bringing magicians in there.
Okay. It's Death Megadolion.
It's like every turn for everyone will just wipe your shit. It's crazy.
Hey, Death, I've blocked physical and all magic attacks. Now what? Oh, cool, bro. Word? Check this out. Yeah, all right. Cool.
Also, when you get to the 60-70% mark, you start to earn 2 types of abilities that change the balance of the game. One is party members start learning, I want your Tetra break or Makara break. I want your resistances gone. You're gone. Fuck off. You also learn you're weak to electricity now. You're weak to fire now. Fuck you. I decided that you're weak to fire now.
Yeah. As like you did.
Some of them learn does wind damage, ignores everything. Like it's doing wind damage, but even if they have absorb wind damage, it's ignoring it. It's just gonna go right the fuck through. I don't care. Go just die.
It is interesting to be looking at press turn half steps and half turns and things like that, and like thinking about guard and all those right, let me rephrase. I remember when I was going through like a P5 Vengeance or a SMT5 Vengeance the other day, and it was like, oh, you're not gonna fucking beat that boss without guarding. He's what the fuck? And I'm like, yo, I never guarded. I played the original game. I never fucking guarded. And they're like, yeah, dude, you're dead. And I'm like, okay, watch me. And I'm like, look, I fucking just DPS raced and managed to do it without it. You know, here. Like it definitely feels it's like it takes away all elemental weakness. It mitigates the damage in such an extreme
you're
way.
Gonna guard.
And there are times where you literally have nothing.
You're gonna guard.
You must, right? And then furthermore,
you're gonna go to the back row and you're gonna guard.
And then even going like, hey, and if you put this item on, you can guard for less, you know, of a cost, and you can still take 2 half turns and use that to do a dual attack. And you're like, okay, I'm like, ooh, I am now really. Like, I paid attention to the turns before, but, like, I wasn't doing, like, really particular math on it. I was kind of just going, like, all right, which character right here or which of my demons has the thing that can nuke this fight? Let me get it to him. Let me keep passing the ball to the one who can do it, and let me buff that person to eliminate the fight. And that's kind of that's how I
that still exists here.
Yeah.
Like, I get into a fight and like I have my main guy, he does holy damage and the thing's weak to holy. So like, okay, everybody pass. Just or buff or debuff or just give him the fucking ball.
But I do find myself, especially with mixed enemy groups, like stopping and thinking more than I used to about, half turns and the exact what would be remainder, and be like, okay, let's get it down to one last half turn, and then the last person heal everybody up. Let's go into the next, or whatever the case is. It's I'm thinking about it more than I did in the previous games. So, yeah, absolutely phenomenal so far, and just bangers in the classical fantasy sense, which impresses me more because we hear a lot of fantasy music in fantasy games and fantasy settings. And when you're like, the part of the novelty of the Persona music is that that's a genre of music that you don't find in RPGs very often, which makes it extra endearing. It's got a very unique style, and Shogi Meguro has created an identity for that franchise. Here, it's just fantasy RPG music, but it's fucking phenomenal. It's doing what you expect it to do. It's not changing. Like, there's nothing I've heard so far that feels like it shouldn't be a part of the genre. We're not Cowboy Bebopping it, but it's just really, really, really good. So yeah, there's something extra impressive to note about that too as well.
I eagerly await more thoughts on this because that game's real good.